PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
See, Hershey bar, Reese's peanut butter cup, bit of honey. How the hell did that get in here?
What is all that?
It's my Halloween stash.
You got all of that from trick-or-treating?
Yep. And it's all mine.
That's incredible.
Isn't it, though?
Yes. Teach me.
No.
Oh, fine. I'll sit outside the doorstep for hours and hours and hours then.
Yeah,
you let me back in.
Yeah, you would, too.
We got all kinds of cool stuff as we go into iconic characters in 2 films this week. Plus, we have a lot more other things going on. Some awards news, some topical discussions, and yes, even the election. You can't get away from it even here. All of that, plus more right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Like sends through the end of Halloween.
This is Subject Cinema. And it's my candy. Mine. Back. Down.
Stand by to receive our transmission.
This town needs an enema.
Celebrating a decade of film podcasting. Blasting out of Beantown, USA, you're tuned into Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Directive.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
Suppose you run your business and let me run mine. Here's looking at you, kid.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TC and Kim.
You know, you could share a little bit.
I could, you're right.
Honestly.
You're right, I'm being horribly selfish here.
Great, candy corn. Just what I always wanted. I knew that was what was going to happen.
I could have given you the bit of honey.
I like bit of honeys. I don't have a problem with bit of honeys. Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
Hi, I'm Kim Brown.
Subject Cinema number 543, November 6, 2016. Halloween is over. It's over! As, what's his name on Iron Chef used to say. And we're just 2 days away from being election, so-called election, being, the election is not so-called, but being so-called over. Although it all depends on the results of how over it's going to be. We'll talk more about politics a little bit later on in the show. How was your week, darling? We had a good week this week,
It wasn't bad.
Assume.
No, not really. I really couldn't say it was a bad
Sitting
week.
at your desk, counting the minutes.
Yeah.
Tick, 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 tick until Friday at 9:45.
Yep. Well, obviously the beginning of the week was Halloween, which is obviously exciting and awesome and great. Now we're into the month of November, which has so much going on. You know, it has the election. It has Thanksgiving, when we're thankful that the election is over. You know, it has...
And we have Veterans Day, when we're thankful for all the people that have given their lives and who serve this country well now and forever.
Yes. We have my birthday, shop early, shop often.
We're thankful for that, because if we weren't thankful for that, that means you wouldn't be here.
Oh.
And that would suck.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Even if you do want to see a dog's purpose, which is just scaring me. Okay.
I I'm sorry. That looks like a beautiful movie, and I know I'm going to sit there and cry till I puke, but I don't care.
Oh, there's an image our listeners needed. Kim crying until she pukes.
I've actually never cried till I threw up. I have cried myself into a headache. The second time we saw Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I knew what was coming.
And the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth times we saw Return of the Fellowship.
Yeah. No, the only time that I was like, I cried so hard I had to lie down was the second time.
But you got worse every time you saw Fellowship.
Yes, that's true. I admit that. I can't help it. I'm sensitive, damn it!
So we got a lot more to go on, and we will be talking about that. I want to tell you up front, our buddy Anthony is taking the week off. He's having some equipment problems.
The hamster died.
Yeah, and so he will be back next week. But other than that, we're going to have a full show, and we hope you'll enjoy what we got. We'll talk about, for first time in over a year, 2 drive-ins need your help. We'll talk about that on Save Our Screens and a lot more. But right now, let's head off to the arrogant doctor in New York, Kim has been waiting since March for this film to come out. Mm-hmm. It's this week's main screen.
Tonight's movie contains sights and sounds so impressive, you'll wonder why we didn't charge you admission. Candy and popcorn are available from our snack bar. As a courtesy to all in attendance today, please refrain from smoking or talking during our feature presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The movie is about to begin.
The main screen.
Dr. Strange, you think you know how the world works? What if I told you the reality you know is one of many?
This doesn't make any sense.
Not everything does. Not everything has to. Through the mystic arts, we harness energy and shape reality. We travel great distances in an instant.
How do I get from here to there?
How did you become a doctor?
Study and practice. Years of it. There's a strength.
He was a brilliant neurosurgeon until his own ego got the best of him during a road trip where he crashed his car, crushed his hands, and then went looking for a cure in a far-off land that showed him an entirely new life. Here he is, finally, you're happy. Benedict Cumberbatch, starring in Doctor Strange. Give us the rundown.
The story begins in Kathmandu, Nepal, when a sorcerer named Caecilius and the zealots that follow him enter a compound called Kamartaj and kill a librarian who is the keeper of a bunch of really old and mystical texts and books and all this stuff like that. They steal some pages from a book. The book belongs to a sorcerer with the title of the Ancient One, who is a being who has lived for centuries and teaches the people of Kamartaj, and including at one point Caecilius, the ways of magic. A battle occurs with the Ancient One pursuing Caecilius and his followers, but he winds up escaping after a battle that redefines the word dizzying. You thought what went on in Inception with the buildings flipping around was mind-blowing? Y'all ain't seen nothing yet. We cut to New York, where we see a doctor under a procedure, doing a medical procedure. The doctor's name is Stephen Strange. He is a neurosurgeon of some renown, who is...
Just ask him.
Yeah. He's really what we would say up here in New England, wicked smart. He is a brilliant neurosurgeon. He's excellent at his job. he saves people's lives, and that's a good thing. But he only seems to want cases that are going to put his name in the forefront. He's a great doctor, but a kind of lousy human being. On a trip to an awards ceremony, he winds up in a terrible auto crash, and the result of which is that he, by some miracle of miracles, is able to survive, but winds up losing the use of his hands. His hands went through extensive and terrible nerve damage, besides having, broken bones and all this, terrible such like that. The bottom line of which is his days as a surgeon are done. And as far as he's concerned, that means his life has no purpose anymore. He pushes everyone away from him, including a young woman named Christine Palmer, who is his co-worker, and they had a romantic relationship at one point. And he's incredibly cruel to her and winds up going through most of his money trying to find out how to fix his hands, if there's any way to fix his hands. He goes to legitimate doctors, questionable doctors, flat out quacks. You get the feeling he's willing to do anything to get the use of his hands back. He hears about a man, he's going through physical therapy, and he hears about a man who was in an awful accident, was paralyzed, and managed to come back from it, is walking again. He goes to this man, Jonathan Pangborn, who tells him about a place called Camertage. Strange spends the last of his money to get to Camertage, meets the Ancient One, and finds out that his view of life till this point has been incredibly narrow. And what expands his mind and leads him to finding out there are other paths, other ways, and as Shakespeare said, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, and there are some things that are beyond heaven and just south of hell, and they're trying to get into earth.
With Benedict Cumberbatch as Dr. Stephen Strange, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Mordo, Rachel McAdams as Christine Palmer, Benedict Wong as the librarian Wong, Mads Mikkelsen as Caecilius, Michael Stuhlbarg as Dr. Nick West, Benjamin Bratt as Jonathan Pangborn, and Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. What did you think of this? You've been waiting for months.
Yes, I have. I have been waiting for this movie since it was announced that Benedict Cumberbatch was going to be playing Doctor Strange, because I said, holy crap, that is the best casting in the entire freaking world. And then we saw the trailer, and I had to be alone for a little while. And, wow! And then we saw the movie. And we came home, and I had to be alone for a lot longer. No,
you didn't.
Well, I spent a little bit of time by myself. I had to. This is
that what you were doing in the bathroom after we got done with the film?
I'm not telling.
Okay, anyway.
I plead the fifth. This movie is so much fun. I mean, it is so much fun. It is so exciting. And it really goes to some really amazing places. You have the whole idea of the multiverse, which has actually been touched on by other Marvel films like Thor, where they bring up the whole 9 realms thing. This is going even beyond that, The whole idea that there are multiple universes where everything is, some places are like Earth, some places are completely not like Earth. And the whole thing is so fascinating. And Stephen has to, maneuver his way around this new life, turning this page in his life and finding out that, it's a cliche, but it's very true. One door opens, one door closes and another door opens. And whether...
Okay. You're talking about the storyline. What did you think of the movie?
I thought the movie was amazing. I thought it was just... The action sequences blew my mind. The cast was absolutely spot on. Everybody was just friggin' perfect in their parts. Now, not talking the whitewashing whole controversy. We'll leave that alone for a second. I thought Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One was really amazing casting and a really brave choice. I think that the way she played the part was really interesting because this is someone that knows so much and yet has this very kind of humble attitude. It's like a really interesting dichotomy, and I think that it worked really well, and I think she pulled that off really amazingly. And Benedict Cumberbatch, oh my God. I mean, besides the oh my God, there's two different ways of saying it there. But the whole characterization that he had for Stephen Strange was A+ perfect. Mm-hmm. You have this person that is on top of their field, and then they lose absolutely everything. There's an old saying that you have to be flat on your back to be able to see the stars. Mm-hmm. And this character is such proof of that. And I think that the way he played it with the really broad flashes of humor that occurred throughout this film, I thought it was perfect. It didn't come off as camp. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The story was great. I wouldn't say easy to follow, but you could really get drawn into the story, and you never felt like you were out of place, even when things are jumping around. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Great superhero movie. Mm-hmm. What about you?
Well, yes, I agree. This is Marvel's best since the Winter Soldier a couple years ago. Haven't liked a lot of the newer ones
Deadpool.
Deadpool's not part of that universe. It's part of the X-Men universe.
No, I know.
Different studio.
I know. More's the pity, because that would be fun.
I love the new Marvel Studios logo they opened the film with. Fantastic coverage of everybody from all the films, and just really terrific. I did have a couple of issues that were on my mind, but neither one were very, very big. I am a huge Michael Giacchino fan. This is the first Marvel film he has scored. There are parts of the score that sound like they are identical to his score from 2009's Star Trek. And the chord changes are so similar and so there, and that's not unusual. Composers do that all the time.
You can tell certain composers,
especially Danny Elfman, who does a lot of repeat stuff.
And John Williams.
Well, no, I don't think John Williams does that a lot. Not as much as Danny Elfman and a couple of other people. But here it annoyed me because it was so close to the Star Trek music, it kind of pulled me from one universe into another. Because all I could think of was Star Trek and not Doctor Strange. Number 2, this movie has a hell of a lot more humor in it than I thought it did. It is fall down funny in places, most of which is with Benedict and Wong, which is really good. Mm-hmm. And it's fantastic. We'll talk about the whitewashing thing and freeze frame a little bit, but the portrayal of Tilda Swinton's portrayal of the Ancient One is interesting. Now, she says she's playing an androgynous, and yet they keep referring to her as she and her. But it is a very well... it's Tilda freaking Swinton. Of course it's going to be good. She's good at everything. And all of the supporting cast was fantastic. Chiwetel Ejiofor, who is always good, and one of my favorite actors right now. Great as Mordo. Benedict Wong, fantastic. Rachel McAdams, for what little she had in the film as Christine, really good. Mads Mikkelsen is one of the best bad guys on the planet right now. Strangely enough, the only place we ever see him play good guys is in his native tongue, in his native country. He's done some really hard-hitting films over there and some comedies over there where he's actually played a good guy. Every American film he does, he's always the bad guy. I like to see him play something more something a little bit different, because he's starting to out Ben Mendelsohn, and that's really terrifying.
I have to disagree a teeny tiny bit, because he actually did play a good guy in a film you didn't see. Mm-hmm. The remake they did of Clash of the Titans. He was a good guy in that. Granted, he didn't make it all the way to the end of the movie. No. But, spoiler alert.
The film is actually pretty much a remake, almost pretty identical to the animated version of Doctor Strange. It was done about 10 years ago, and it really holds up well in the live action. The effects are freaking mind-blowing. And 3D in this movie, the best 3D I've seen in a long, long time. It explodes on the screen, and we saw it in a widescreen X Plus format. It is fantastic. I really think that Benedict was the best choice. Now, they had talked about Keanu Reeves and Jared Leto also before everything was cast, and I thought Keanu would do okay. Having seen the movie in certain scenes, I don't think he would have been able to do it right. I think Benedict was the right choice.
I do too.
All the way around. Of course, we both love him. He's a fantastic actor. Am I not mistaken in thinking this is the lead-off of segment 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I think it might be. If it's not Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, might be. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't want to even talk about Guardians of the Galaxy.
And, of course, do we really have to say it? It's a Marvel film. Stay till the end.
There's 2 end
credits.
sequences. People missed the last one because it was completely after the credits. There was a mid-credits one.
And there were people leaving, and we're like, where are you going?
You guys know better than that. There's also, of course, the obligatory Stan Lee cameo, although this time it doesn't come till near the end of the film, so you're going to want to stick around. It's fantastic. Easily the best Marvel movie since Ant-Man, and definitely really terrific. The best overall since Winter Soldier, which I just adore anyway. What's your score?
I give Doctor Strange a very enthusiastic A.
Me too. It's a definite C if you're a Marvel fan. If you're not a Marvel fan, you don't need to be a Marvel fan to get into this character.
No, you don't.
Because they don't really tie it in except for a oblique reference to the Avengers in it. Literally, they mentioned the Avengers in it. It is a completely self-contained film, and if you like Benedict, if you like the idea, if you like great special effects and amazing 3D...
And capes!
and capes. Then Doctor Strange is the doctor that you need to see for whatever ails you. It's definitely a great film.
The Doctor is definitely in.
No film is too good or too bad for us. This is Subject Cinema.
All right, Kristen, I am so excited that you've decided to do a podcast with me, but what are we going to do a podcast about? There's so many other movie podcasts. We got to do something original.
Well, I'm a big fan of Disney movies. What about something like that?
That's just kid stuff. What do we want to do that for?
Did you know that The Avengers is a Disney movie? Or that Pulp Fiction is a Disney movie?
Pulp Fiction is not a Disney movie.
It's technically owned by Miramax, which is part of Disney.
We are still going to talk about the Disney animated movies, though, right?
I thought you said that was kid stuff.
Well, I've got 2 kids. I got to be a good dad and stuff.
So be sure to subscribe to the Walt Sent Me podcast, where we discuss the various subsidiaries of the Walt Disney Studios, including the animated movies.
It's available on iTunes, Podomatic, and wherever you find great podcasts. And I swear, it's not kid stuff.
Subject Cinema.
Okay, we've got that out of the way. Now let's talk about what we need to talk about with this film. There is a huge controversy about the casting of Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One in Doctor Strange.
Yep.
Asian Americans and Asian characters have been very unkind to the idea because the character in the film, in the comics, is a ancient, elderly Asian character believed to be from Tibet. Now,
and also a man.
And a man. There is reasoning behind it, and Tilda has been out there, really pumping people, saying, this was our attempt to make it even more, to broaden it even more, because the Marvel Universe is too male-centric, which it is. The Doctor Strange has virtually no female characters other than Christine in it anywhere. And there
are, but they're all in the background. I mean, some of Caecilius's
right,
zealots
but I'm saying there's
are
no
female, but they're
recurring
not
characters that are there all the time, except for Christine.
Yeah.
And it was their attempt to broaden that a bit. Now, this is also the line that Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, has been pumping out there since at least Comic-Con, if not before that. However, it's time to, number one, this particular subject really pisses me off because the studios are not going to admit anymore. They brought it up way back when it first started erupting, when the casting was announced and they had just started filming, but they haven't brought it up since. The reason why they cast a woman and a non-Asian woman, Tilda Swinton, who is Irish, in this role is because if they had made the character of the Ancient One from the area that the comic book suggested it was from, it would not have played in China. Period.
You have to
China outlaws any mention of Tibet in Western films.
Yeah.
It earned $80 million in China this weekend. So they had the Chinese audience, and all they had to do was change a couple of things so that it wasn't Tibet.
Right.
Now, why the studios can't come out and just say that, I don't understand. China is the world's biggest film market right now. It has now surpassed the U.S. as the largest film market in the world. They make tons of movies in China of their own, but they import tons of Western films, not just from the U.S., but from Australia, from South America, from Britain, and from Europe, and they have to conform to the laws that they have governing the showing of these films in China.
And TV shows.
And television shows,
China has certain rules. Time travel cannot be shown in Chinese... I'm not sure about Chinese movies, but Chinese television shows.
I'm pretty sure it's probably the same. They're usually the same on both fronts.
Cannot show time travel because the government doesn't like it for some reason. You know?
Because I think they're afraid they would be traveling back in time to kill Mao or whatever and stop the revolution and stop the communism. I don't know.
Who knows? They've got their own rules, and that's their country, and that's their thing. And we may not like it, but we have to be like,
Westerners don't understand the way Chinese thinks because China is a communist country, and Westerners are, it's drilled into us that communism is bad, very bad. And it is. It's been proven not to work over and over and over again.
It doesn't work without enforcement.
Right, which doesn't make any sense because it's supposed to be for the people. Everybody's supposed to be nice and happy.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. Excuse me.
But like I said, it's another country, and we may not like it, but we have to respect the way they do things.
Now, there's also controversy surrounding Caucasian characters in Zhang Yimou's new film, The Great Wall, which Matt Damon is the lead on. And I'll talk about this in a second, but there's something else going on with that. And the overwhelming, and in this case, probably realistic protests going on about Scarlett Johansson being cast as a Japanese character in...
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell. I love Scarlett Johansson. I wouldn't throw her out of bed for eating crackers. Let me tell you that.
No.
But a Japanese character?
Well, is she played?
That's like Ezra Miller wanting to do Akira, which was the rumor a couple years ago, and Ezra, thank God, stepped out and shot it right down.
See, that's where I'm a little confused, because you keep more up to date on this than I do. Mm-hmm. And I will also admit to having an enormous girl crush on Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, you always have.
Don't judge me. But...
There's nothing to judge in that case here.
Is she playing a Japanese character, or did they take the character and make it a Caucasian woman?
She has the same name.
Really?
Yeah. The name is right out of the comic book.
Oh, for the love of Larry.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this is going to get interesting. And it'll be interesting to see if there's a lot of protests when it comes out I think it comes out in May. Mm-hmm. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Now, The Great Wall is interesting in particular because, number one, it is Zhang Yimou's first ever English language film. Yimou, of course, to us, is a god. The man is one of the best directors on the planet. He made Hero, he made House of Flying Daggers, Curse the Golden Flower, and a dozen other films we love by the guy.
Did the Olympic...
and the
Beijing
Olympics opening and closing ceremonies, which were mind-blowing. He has opted. He opted to invite a Caucasian actor and a well-known Spanish actor to be a part of the cast of this film, because although it was shooting in China and it is a historical Chinese story,
fantasy.
Well, it is fantasy, but it is based on several real things that happened.
Yeah. In the same way, what Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter is, Abraham Lincoln did exist, but,
Well, okay, fine. These were fables from that time, but it's still based in reality.
Right.
The characters are Westerners.
Right.
they are there as a trade thing, and they get drawn into what is going on behind the Great Wall and what the Great Wall is really protecting the world from.
Yeah.
The characters were written that way, and none of the Chinese actors in this film had any issues with the script, with the casting, with anything. So why are Asian Americans losing their crap over it? This is, I'm sorry. The Chinese actors and the Chinese unions and stuff themselves were thrilled at the chance of having Matt Damon star in their film, because they know that having a Caucasian character in this movie is going to help give it a wider audience in the West, because let's face it, except for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was an across-the-board smash, most of the films that come from China cater to niche audiences, which we happen to be a part of.
Right.
And it's like, holy
People
cow.
have to go seek them out. You know,
The Great Wall, it has Zhang Yimou's name on it. It has Matt Damon's name on it. This movie could be one of the biggest hits of the year, and it opens in January, so it's definitely not going to be an Oscar contender next year. It's way too early. But it's like, I don't understand how, if the native actors, unions, director, and everybody who wrote it didn't have a problem with this, why everybody's screaming whitewashing when the part was written that way.
Yeah. Can I also bring up something
that
else?
irritates me.
Can I bring up something else? Now, this might just be the fact that I am me and woefully naive about these sort of things. But can I also bring up the fact that when they market this movie in America, of course they're going to market the fact that Matt Damon is in the movie. Matt Damon is a big American star. When they market this movie in China, they are probably going to market
the two big Chinese stars that are part of it. Yes.
Thank you.
But there's also something else that I find very interesting about the marketing campaign. Matt Damon is not the first name you see in the trailer. He is not the first name that you see on any of the print advertising. Everything for this film, the first line you see in the trailer, on commercials, everything else, from visionary director Zhang Yimou. Not Matt Damon in a Zhang Yimou film.
Right.
The director is getting the top billing.
Right.
Which is rightfully so, if you ask me.
As well he should,
But
yes.
I just don't, maybe I'm not trying to be insensitive. There are truly a lot of diversity issues in Hollywood.
There have been for years.
Now, Disney Studios have stepped up and have said that they do plan to feature an all-Asian cast in the live-action version of Mulan, which is due out in 2018. And rightfully so, since it's set in China.
Yes.
It is a Chinese character and Chinese people.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Can I also bring up one tiny thing, though? About Mulan?
Sure.
About the animated version of Mulan. Now, I don't remember anybody freaking out or losing their minds about the fact that for the most part, the lead character was voiced by an Asian American actress. Other characters were voiced by
Leah Salonga, if I'm not mistaken,
I think
right?
so, yeah.
Yeah.
Her sidekick, the comic funny sidekick, Mushu the Dragon, which is a Chinese character, was voiced by Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anybody saying
That's
boo.
the other thing that's bothering me, and I'm glad you brought that up. The other major issue of whitewashing lately has been for the critically acclaimed Leica film Kubo and the Two Strings. The Kubo, which is just one of the greatest films of all time, if you ask me, and is definitely in the running for my best picture this year, has an amazing voice cast led by Game of Thrones star Art Parkinson as Kubo. Art is best known as one of the Stark kids in Game of Thrones. He's also been in San Andreas, and he was on the 2015 eCinemaOne Rising Stars Honors.
Yep.
He is an amazing young actor. The Asian community, when it first came out, and I'm sorry to say this, led by George Takei. He should have known better than this.
Who actually does a voice in the movie.
Yeah. No, actually, that's wrong. You're right. George Takei was part of the Defenders, the leader of the defense. George Takei defended the film because he does the voice of one of the townspeople. And he said, you cannot expect Hollywood to put an all-Asian cast when the characters on screen are Asian and are portrayed as Asian. But that doesn't mean that the voice actors are going to be. Now, the Asian American people had fits about this, and I'm not trying to be offensive here, because I have Asian American friends. You know, I don't want them, they understand, they agree with us for the most part. Where are you going to find Asian actors that speak German in Germany, French in France?
Right.
These are all going to be probably Caucasian or native.
They're
going
to be
speakers.
native to that country because they're going to be speaking the language that the people in that country understand.
The Asian voice cast are done in Japan, China, and wherever else in the Asian community the movie has been issued. I think that on an animated film, it's a little iffy. Because animation is, I mean, they were throwing a fit more than anything about Charlize Theron, who, by the way, is not American; she's South African, and Matthew McConaughey, which was his first ever voiceover role, and it's understandable that you would be irritated with that, but when you think about the concept of the film and that neither character ever appears as a human except for at the very beginning. You're really
making too much out of it.
Yeah. And even George Takei thinks so.
Yeah.
George has had more to say about other Asian whitewashing on other films, and he's generally been right.
Although the one thing I want to bring up is about jumping back to Doctor Strange. Now, let's just take the whole China thing out of the equation. We're in an alternate universe now.
Okay.
Take that, put it completely out of the picture. If they had cast the Ancient One as an elderly, because in the comics he is very elderly, elderly Oriental man, with all of what goes with that, you'd have the self-same people
screaming,
losing their crap,
screaming stereotypes.
Yes,
yeah, I know.
So you can't frigging win.
Although, I mean, in all honesty, I would not have had a problem with the idea of an elderly Asian actor playing it. James Hong could have played this role with no problem. Yeah. And
as long as it's believable, as long as it's believable for all the action sequences.
And we would have had a decent stuntman for that, because I mean the man is in his almost 90 and he wouldn't have been able to do it. But but James Hong would have been great. There are other elderly actors that could have done it. But in that context, you're probably right. There would have been a lot of stereotype screaming. And
you can't win.
You can't win. And it's turning into that for every kind of ethnicity there is. You're getting it for, I mean, people are continue, and this is one area that really bugs me, and I got to admit that. I love Idris Elba. He is a fantastic actor. He's a Rising Star alum, and everything he's ever done that I've ever seen him in, he's been fantastic. But he is not fit for James Bond, because the books that Ian Fleming wrote describe Bond as a Caucasian, middle 50s, sort of paunchy but handsome, and he doesn't fit any of it. It's the source material. He does not fit the source material. You should try to fit the source material.
Yeah. I agree with that.
In some basic way. If you're basing it on something that has well-known source material.
Of course, arguably, in that case, none of the people that have played James Bond look like the way...
Connery came the closest, probably.
Ian Fleming said that he based James Bond's looks on Hoagie Carmichael.
Yikes! Seriously?
I am not making that up.
Oh my god!
I am not making that. I don't think he meant exactly looking like that, but that was the type that he saw in his mind for James Bond. I am not making that up.
I think that that goes for any other actors who would be, or again, the whole idea. Now they kind of force written it into the canon, so they can cast a woman as the Doctor sometime. But the idea of a woman playing the Doctor is just kind of weird to me. But they wrote it into the canon with Matt Smith, and now it is possible. Even though I think most of the Doctor Who fans out there would wig out if it happened. Especially the older ones.
And then they get slapped down and told that they're sexist.
Not necessarily, because it would be coming from Britain, and Britain doesn't put up with anything like that. In any case, we're not trying to be offensive. We're not trying to be racist. We're not trying to do anything. We're simply exploring this controversy.
We're simply expressing our opinions.
We understand it, and we definitely understand that it happens. And there was a reason for Oscars So White, even though I don't agree that you should be able to force people to be nominated if performances are better. It should be based on performance, not on the color of your skin or your ethnicity or your nationality or anything like that. That pisses me off. But I can understand why, with there were so many terrific performances and directors and women and whatever that never seem to get nominated because of the old men in the Academy. That I understand that. What we're saying is the time has come to stop pointing fingers all the time and to try and understand all the reasons, because you want perfect understanding, and a lot of these groups refuse to budge that their version is only one side, and sometimes there's 5 or 6 sides. The Doctor Strange one has a number of sides that are playing into effect, and it mostly affects Hollywood's bottom line. And I mean, it's going to continue to affect bottom line, because down the road, 10 years down the road, when Benedict Cumberbatch goes through his agreement and the contract and says, hey, I've never gotten my residuals, and calls Marvel up, the movie's still like $150 million in the red, even though it's made $5 billion around the world. That's Hollywood accounting, and that's why I'm saying it happens.
Right.
But there'll be time, and it is moving. It is slowly getting there. But you got to let things. You can't force it through, because you do, it'll collapse the industry. You got to have the Chinese market. You got to have the African market. You got to have the markets where it plays, and it's got to be an agreement all the way around. That's what happened with Doctor Strange. What happened with the thing around Kubo and everything else. And I think that's what we're trying to say.
Yep.
Give it time. Continue to say things, but do it from a reasonable point of view. You got to look at everything before you can really go nuts.
Yep.
What's your opinion on this particular thing? We want to hear from you. Yes, you, sitting out there listening to this podcast. Subject Cinema at PNRNetworks.com. Pick up that stylus and write on your phone. Tap us in an email from your iPad. But email us and let us know what you think.
Subject Cinema.
Red Carpet Monitor this week. We've got, you can tell we are approaching the end of the year. As awards keep coming, award nominations keep coming, and the first 2, since the Gotham Awards 2 weeks ago, have come out and announced their nominees. The MOET, M-O-E-T, I think that's how it's pronounced, British Independent Film Award nominees were announced earlier this week. The BIFA is the equivalent in Britain of our Film Independent Spirit Awards. They are for independent films. They make a certain amount of money, and you can't have over. Now, my big thrill with this, and I still haven't seen the film, we still haven't watched it, is the nominations that I Am Not a Serial Killer got. In any case, nominated in this year's British Independent Film Awards. For Best British Independent Film, the nominees are American Honey. That was a huge hit with the critics. It only came and went so fast here in Boston, we never did get to see it. Couple in a Hole, I, Daniel Blake, which was the Palme d'Or winner at Cannes this year. Notes on Blindness and Under the Shadow. International Independent Film, the nominees are Hunt for the Wilder People. That was from New Zealand. Manchester by the Sea from America. Moonlight from America. Mustang from France, I think. And Tony Erdmann, another big Cannes winner. I think that's... I want to say that's Norwegian or German. I forget which. For director, Andrea Arnold for American Honey. Babak Anvari for Under the Shadow. Ben Wheatley for Free Fire. Ken Loach for I, Daniel Blake. And Peter Middleton and James Spinney for Notes on Blindness. For Best Screenplay, Andrea Arnold for American Honey. Babak Anvari for Under the Shadow. Billy O'Brien and Christopher Hyde for I Am Not a Serial Killer. Paul Laverty for Daniel Blake. And Rachel Tunard for Adult Life Skills. Gotta take a drink here. I'm gonna get all dry-throated. For Outstanding Actress, the nominees are Haley Squires for I, Daniel Blake, Jodie Whittaker for Adult Life Skills. We last saw Jodie in Attack the Block all those years ago. Kate Dickie in Couple in the Hole, Narges Rashidi for Under the Shadow, and Sasha Lane, who blew minds in American Honey. Everybody is talking about her performance in that. Nominated for Best Actor, Daniel Johns for I, Daniel Blake, Max Records for I Am Not a Serial Killer, woo! Michael Fassbender, oh God, Trespass Among Us, which hasn't come out here yet, Shia LaBeouf for American Honey, and Steve Brandon for My Feral Heart. I'm not familiar with that film at all. Supporting Actress nominees, Avin Manshadi for Under the Shadow, Gemma Arterton for The Girl with All the Gifts, Naomi Harris for Our Kind of Traitor, I'll get it right, Shauna Swash for My Feral Heart, and Terry Fato for A United Kingdom. For supporting actor, Arians Kinney for The Pass, Brett Goldstein for Adult Life Skills, Christopher Lloyd for I Am Not a Serial Killer, Jamie Dornan for Anthropoid, which is just out on DVD, and Sean Harris for Trespass Against Us. For Best Documentary, the nominees are The Confession, Living on the War on Terror, Dancer, The Hard Stop, Notes on Blindness, and Versus, the life and film of Ken Loach, who's been nominated for several categories for I, Daniel Blake this year. Mm-hmm. Debut director, the Douglas Hitchcock Award. Nominees went to Adam Smith for Trespass Against Us, Alice Lowe for Prevenge, sorry. Babak Anvari for Under the Shadow, Peter Middleton and James Spinney for Notes on Blindness, and Rachel Tounard for Adult Life Skills. Most Promising Newcomer, Dave Johns for I, Daniel Blake, Haley Squires for I, Daniel Blake, Letitia Wright for Urban Hymn, Senia Nanua for The Girl with All the Gifts, and Steve Brandon for My Feral Heart. And there's a number of other nominees in that, but those are due to be handed out in early December. Also out this week, the Cinema Eye Honors nominees. Cinema Eye is a documentary group, and they are considered the premier listing for possible Oscar contenders because they have become, this is their 10th annual year, and they have really exploded as a precursor to what will be up for both shorts and features in documentaries at the Oscars. Nominated for Outstanding Achievement in Nonfiction Feature Filmmaking, Camera Person, Fire at Sea, I Am Not Your Negro, OJ, Made in America, and Wiener. For Outstanding Direction, Kirsten Johnson for Camera Person, Gianfranco Rosi for Fire at Sea, Raoul Peck for I Am Not Your Negro, Robert Greene for Kate Plays Christine, and Ezra Edelman for OJ, Made in America. For Outstanding Editing, Nels Bangerter for Camera Person, Clay Tweel for Gleason, Andrea Strauss for I Am Not Your Negro, Brett Grantado, Maya Muma, and Ben Sozansky for OJ, Made in America, and Elie Dupree for Wiener. Cinematography nominees, All Those Sleepless Nights, Camera Person, Contemporary Color, The Eagle Huntress, and Fire at Sea. For Outstanding Achievement in Television Films and Nonfiction, the nominees are Happy Valley, Heroin, Cape Cod, USA, How to Dance in Ohio, Making a Murderer, Maplethorpe, Look at the Pictures, and My Beautiful Broken Brain. I want to point out 3 of these, although they're nominated for television, were actually feature films that did not get major distribution. So they went with HBO or one of those companies, and that's why they're up for that. Nominated for the Audience Choice Award this year, Gleason, I Am Not Your Negro, Life Animated, I'm surprised it didn't get more nominations, Miss Sharon Jones, Mr. Gaga, Presenting Princess Shaw, Sonita, Tickled, Tower, and Wiener. And for Outstanding Achievement in a Debut Film, Craig Atkinson for Do Not Resist, Otto Bell for The Eagle Huntress, Jessica Edwards for Mavis, Nanfu Wang for Hooligan Sparrow, David Ferrer and Dylan Reeve for Tickled, and Heidi Brandenburg and Matthew Orzel for When Two Worlds Collide. There's other nominees in various categories. And they also pre-announced their group called The Unforgettables. These are the people, the most significant nonfiction film subjects of the year. And according to Cinema Eye, these are the people you want to make sure you see. Michael Huzaka from All Those Sleepless Nights, Audrey Pott and Daisy Coleman for Audrey and Daisy, Laura Albert from Author, the J.T. Leroy story, Kirsten Johnson from Camera Person, I'm going to get this wrong, I'm so sorry, Ashopan Noregev for The Eagle Huntress, Samuela Pustillo, that's a hard name to say too, Fire at Sea, Steve Gleason and Michael Verisco for Gleason, Yi Haiyan for Hooligan Sparrow, Kate Shield for Kate Plays Christine, Owen Suskind from Life Animated, Sharon Jones from Miss Sharon Jones, Peter Dunning from Peter and the Farm, which opened this weekend, Princess Shaw from Presenting Princess Shaw, Sonita Aladiza from Sonita, which if you have not seen this film, you need to. It was easily our favorite film at the Salem Film Fest this year. And Huma Abedin and Anthony Weiner for Weiner. Haven't we heard enough of these two? Anyway, the Cinema Eye Honors will be...
I have. I can't speak for anybody else, but
The Cinema Eye Honors will also be out in December. And, of course, there will be more nominees hitting in the near future as more and more of the awards get ready to announce. Most of the big awards, the Oscars, don't announce until January. Golden Globes announce in mid-December. And all the critics' lists start coming out in December. The only other major nominees will be out this month, I think, is the Spirit Awards. They usually announce before the week of Thanksgiving, usually Monday or Tuesday. So we'll see what happens. And there better be some love for Little Men. I'm going to be mad. Red Carpet Monitor returns on the website, too. Check out eCinemaOne.com. We will have up all the lists and stuff when they happen. Don't miss it.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
His movies.
Way to go, Charlie.
I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over.
More human than human is our motto.
He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Her movies.
The hills are alive. You're so jealous you can hardly breathe.
The rum!
Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
Suddenly my life doesn't seem such a waste.
Fuzzy Fur Movies. The Cavebabble Podcast. We babble about the movies you love.
And probably a few that you love to hate.
Find out more at cavebabble.com. Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and by Smoke Signal. C-A-V-E. Babble. Cavebabble.com. Movies for him, her, and you.
If you're looking for great films, well, that's okay. You'll like us anyway. Subject Cinema.
The Dramatic Chipmunk.
Oh, God. Could the drama please be over? I'm so tired. This is going to date this show, but I'm sorry. The election is 2 days away, less than 2 days away, and I am so freaking sick of this.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
I'm sicker than you are. And that's,
No, you're not. You know why? Because I'm a political junkie, and I've had it with this mess.
Actually, you're right.
I have had it with this mess. You talked about it on this week's Platinum Roses Garden.
I did.
I am at my wit's end. I love watching politics. I love watching the Sunday news shows. I love watching, stuff like that. But I am so fed up with this campaign. I'm just tired of it. And it's worse for us because we not only have to deal with the presidential, goings on, monkeying around between Trump and Clinton. We have to mess around with all these groups going head to toe, smacking each other around. Vote yes on 3, vote no on 4, vote 5, vote yes on 6, whatever. And because we live in a border state, we are being pummeled with ads for New Hampshire.
Yeah. As I mentioned on Platinum Roses Garden this week, which you should go read anyway.
Or listen to.
We should go listen to anyway. I'm sorry. I'm looking at something and the word read popped into my head. One of the things that makes TC and I such a great couple is the fact that we have things that we are into that the other person is not into. So we have our own things that are our special things. You know, we have things that we both love, like music and movies and stuff. But I have Supernatural, which he's not into.
And I have politics, which she can't stand.
Yeah. So we have our points where it's like, well, Kim's going to go watch Sam and Dean, and, you know, TC's going to go watch the Talking Heads yell at each other.
I'll be honest with you.
You know,
I'll be totally honest with you. I didn't watch any of the debates live. I watched them and I read the transcripts. I just could not stand the idea
this year, I think
of watching them screech at each other.
This year, I think you've been dealing with scarier monsters than the Winchesters have. to be perfectly honest with you.
You got the bat from Arkansas versus the dingbat from New York. I'm like, okay, what do you have here?
You know, besides the fact that everybody's like, he sucks, she sucks, vote for me, you know, on the national stage, which is making us an embarrassment to the rest of the world. You know,
this is actually, according to a poll taken this week, Americans think this is the worst election in history. Because 62% of Americans think they are both bad candidates. Mm-hmm. That's pretty scary.
Yeah. But as, you know, also going with what TC mentioned, we have our own local, referendums that we're voting on. And we have basically had the living frog snot beaten out of us with negative ads, with negative ads, name calling.
Maggie Hassan sucks. Kelly Ayotte sucks. You know, it's like, okay, really? Why do we care? They're in New Hampshire.
Yeah, character assassinations for states we can't even vote for, and it's just
for the record, our senators are not up for re-election until 2018. Yeah. Elizabeth Warren and I can't remember the other guy. I'm sorry.
Which terrifies me when we get to that point, because if that's what this election's been like, can you imagine what the next one's going to be like?
Bob Schieffer said it best. Bob is known as a extreme firebrand on the left, but he keeps his opinions, his personal stuff, out of his commentaries. And he had a great commentary on this morning, CBS Sunday Morning, which basically says, you know, when it's gotten to this point and Americans think this is the worst election in history and we have this thing to go through and get through it, if it's that bad and this kind of campaign is that detrimental, don't you think that's something we should talk about before the next election?
Yeah, because we need to keep it from happening again.
Yeah.
You know, that's all there is to it.
I mean, we'll be honest, Kim and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum in this particular case. I support who she's going to vote for. She supports who I'm going to vote for. And, my choice.
Yeah.
Not the person, obviously.
And
I have no problem with that. That's fine. We don't force everybody. We're differing on a couple of the state issues, too.
I respect his choice. He respects my choice. Yeah. Nobody's trying to change anybody's mind.
We're not screaming about, I'm going to unfriend you if you like Donald Trump, or I'm going to turn you off on my social media if you dare say anything positive about Hillary Clinton. Oh, please grow up. All you whiny bitches in California, especially out there in La La Land. Hollywood Reporter had this long list of all the parties that are going to happen on Tuesday night from Jeffrey Katzenberg and all these other people. And it's like, well, it's going to be a great time to celebrate Hillary or get drunk if she doesn't win. I'm like, whatever, okay. And there are those saying the same thing about Donald Trump. And there are those saying, I got to admire, I've never agreed with Susan Sarandon's politics, but I got to admire her. She's always been an extreme left political person, and she's usually supported the Democratic Party. This year, she hasn't. She was a staunch Bernie Sanders supporter. She's dead set against Hillary Clinton. Last week, she came out and said, the Democratic National Committee is the most corrupt organization on the planet. I'm voting for Jill Stein, who is the Green Party candidate. I mean, that says a lot. Mm-hmm. The fact that they lost one of their biggest people because of who they put in there. But then again, you're losing people on the Republican side because of who they put in there, too. It's both ways. It's so whiny. And Mrs. George Stephanopoulos was quoted at Georgia, for those of you who don't follow stuff, used to be the Clintons' press secretary, and now he's ABC's Good Morning America host and host of This Week with George Stephanopoulos. Mrs. Stephanopoulos said, if Donald Trump wins, we're moving to Australia. Have you talked this over with your husband yet? I don't think he's going to be able to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning to host Good Morning America up here.
More importantly, does he get his balls back in the divorce settlement? Because apparently, you're carrying them around in your purse.
It's important. You need to go out. You need to cast your vote. Every vote will count, even if you're voting for one of the third-party candidates. Because, people who say, doing that throws away your vote. No, it says that that's vote for you, that you don't trust either of the two big parties. So there are two other parties out there. There's the Libertarian Party headed up by Gary Johnson, and there is the Green Party headed up by Jill Stein. Those four, along with Trump and Clinton, all four of those are on every state's ballot.
Yep.
Go and enjoy yourself. And as Kim said, after you vote, no matter who you vote for, go have a Sunday. Go have something fun. Go do something enjoyable, and forget about the election until after 7 o'clock at night, because none of the news organizations can say anything until the first polls close. That's 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Pacific time, and everything will start to unravel then. And I don't know about you, but I'm going to sit in front of the TV all night long. I have a whole bunch of doctor stuff going on Tuesday morning too. I will sit there Tuesday night. You can do whatever you like, come online or whatever. And I'm going to sit there, and I don't care which way it goes. I'm going to enjoy the show because they're going to be talking heads exploding everywhere, and it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of carnage, and hopefully the win will be positive and large enough that we can start putting things back together.
As I said on Platinum Rose's Garden again, and TC just brought up, once you vote, whatever time you vote, if you vote in the morning, if you vote in the afternoon, if you vote on your lunch break, the second you leave the polling place, go do something nice for yourself.
Hug a puppy.
Hug a puppy. Buy a candy bar. Hug someone you love. Give them a big old wet sloppy kiss. Have a Coke and a smile. Just,
That's not their slogan anymore. Taste the feeling is their slogan.
Well,
but you know what really would be a bigger thing?
What?
If you're a Clinton supporter, come out of the polls and hug a Trump supporter. If you're a Trump supporter, come out of the polls and hug a Clinton supporter. And tell them, oh, I'm sorry, you're not going to win, but I hope your day goes well.
No, just hug them because they're... No, that's not nice. Hug them because they're a person. Say, I'm sorry shit's been so crazy this year. Can we get back to acting like human beings?
Amen. It'll be fun, and the world is watching. And next week when we come here, we'll probably have a little bit more as a coda as to hopefully somebody definitively winning, because if it drags out like 2000, it's going to be hell.
Good times and great movies. Subject Cinema.
The Silver Stream.
The review that Variety gave us when we first went on the air in September of 1966. Star Trek won't work.
What was your impetus for this project? Where did it start?
In November of last year, I approached Dad about the idea of doing a documentary on Spock as a part of the celebration of the anniversary of the original series. And the minute I suggested this to Dad, he was in.
When word came out today that actor Leonard Nimoy had died, the president said, "I love Spock."
I started acting about 8 years old and suddenly decided...
This past September was the 50th anniversary of one of the most iconic television programs of all time, Gene Roddenberry's Wagon Train to the Stars, as it was sold to NBC, Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
One day after the anniversary, a new film about one of its stars hit theaters and on demand, and we have finally had time to sit down and check it out, from director Adam Nimoy, the son of Leonard Nimoy, the film For the Love of Spock. Give us the rundown.
Yep. For the Love of Spock is a father through the eyes of his son. Adam Nimoy looks back at his father's career with interviews from his father's family members, from people that he worked with, people that were his friends, from Leonard Nimoy's humble beginnings in the city of Boston. Woohoo! His time in his decision to move to California to become an actor, which was not met with support from his parents, because let's face it, most parents, when their kids tell them that, they're like, you're going to do what? His decision to go to California, become a husband and a father, and work as an actor. And he was a working actor, did TV, did movies, small parts, and then Gene Roddenberry comes along with this science fiction story, and he wrote this part specifically because he wanted to cast Leonard Nimoy in this part. The part of a half-human, half-alien being named Spock, who would wind up becoming the science officer of the USS Enterprise. Leonard took the part and probably had absolutely no idea the roller coaster that his life was supposed to go on.
The film features so many people in the industry. Just a quick rundown of it. For this film, Adam Nimoy appears as himself and also interviewed a number of celebrities, including Zoe Saldana, Chris Pine, Simon Pegg, Mia Bialik, Carl Urban, Zachary Quinto, J.J. Abrams, Jim Parsons, his fellow co-star William Shatner. Nimoy himself appears in the film in archive footage. Also Jason Alexander, Nichelle Nichols, Catherine Hicks, George Takei, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Walter Koenig, Nicholas Meyer, Jeffrey Katzenberger, his sister Julie Nimoy, and a number of other people, all reminiscing about what a great character this was and what a great person Leonard was.
Yep. Leonard Nimoy left this planet a little over a year ago. He passed away on February 27th, 2015. And I have a theory. I've postulated this theory for several years. And I realize that some people are like, well, that's because you're just some hippie, earthy, crunchy granola person.
Okay.
But I don't like it when people refer to other people as being gone. Because if you think of a person who has left this plane of existence, if you think of them and their memory makes you smile, they're not really gone. They're not truly gone.
Well, isn't that what the whole gone but not forgotten is about?
They're alive in your heart. They're still alive inside of you, in your memories, because you still have warmth for them. Gone just sounds so final. Mm-hmm. And it's not final. Nothing's final, really, if you look at it that way. This film is so beautiful and so moving on so many different levels. As Star Trek fans, which we have both been, I've been a Star Trek fan my whole life. The show
was 13 when I got bit by it.
The show was always part of my life. When I was a small child, it would be on TV. I really had no idea what it was, but it was there. As I got older, and it became like, okay, this is Star Trek. This is always around. Man, he's handsome. That kind of a thing.
Well, I gotta digress. I remember seeing some of the original show when it was on NBC when I was a very small child, and my stepfather was a huge fan of the reruns and watched it all the time. But I wasn't able to get into it at that time. I didn't get into it until I got into my teenage years. But I got into it big time then. Okay, so just wanted to
Part
clarify.
of the reason I got into it was Spock. Was the character of Spock, and that's something that gets brought up in the film by some people that are at a convention, which if you've never been to a Star Trek convention, you need to go because it's an awesome feeling.
Everybody should experience at least one major Star Trek convention.
Yeah.
Preferably a fan-run one.
Yeah, yeah. The fact that a lot of people identified with Spock because of the fact that Spock is an outsider. Spock you can tell that that's the way he feels. I realize I just pissed a lot of people off, but this is the way he feels about himself. He doesn't belong anywhere, but at the same time, he belongs everywhere. He's neither human nor Vulcan. Neither side truly welcomes him, but everyone needs him in their life because he's so smart. He is, at his heart, it's not that he doesn't care. It's that he cares too much. He cares so much.
Okay, again, you're talking about the character here. Let's talk about the movie.
Right. The movie looks at why Spock is so beloved. Mm-hmm. And in the hands of another actor, I think Spock would have always been a popular character, but I don't think he would have touched and resonated with so many people, except for the fact that he was in the hands at the time of such a gifted actor as Leonard, and now in the gifted hands of an actor like Zachary Quinto. It's really beautiful watching Adam talk about his relationship with his father, which was not perfect.
They had problems.
Yeah. Which stems back to the fact that Leonard had problems with his own father.
Yeah.
And I won't speak for anybody else in this room, but I can speak for myself.
You had more daddy issues than I did, but I had a few too.
Yeah, but my dad issues sprang from the fact that my dad had issues with his dad.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, maybe his dad had, and it just keeps going on and on and on until that cycle gets broken. And thank God that Adam and Leonard were able to break it before his father passed on. And
it's interesting, if I can point this out before I forget and it slips my mind. Leonard's portrayal of Spock is the only version of the character that is a part of all three distinct brands of Star Trek. He was part of the original series cast. Mm-hmm. He was in a Next Generation episode called Unification.
1 and 2.
And Spock Prime in the J.J. Abrams universe, where he traveled through time and ended up changing the timeline, and his younger self, played by Zachary Quinto. So he's a part of all three distinctly different Star Trek universes that are known.
You're quite right. You are quite right. I think that Adam's look at his father is honest. It is very honest. And honesty is not always pretty. There's most of the time honesty isn't pretty. He looks at his father's relationship and he doesn't put all of the fact that things weren't perfect on between him and his father. He doesn't lay all of that at his father's feet. He also takes the blame for it, not being a perfect relationship. He was abusing drugs. He was having his own problems. And I think that was incredibly brave, because most people, when they're in that situation, intentionally or unintentionally, will paint themselves as being in the better light. Mm-hmm. And Adam painted both his father and himself as being human beings that are flawed and make mistakes and F up. And but that thank God we do learn from them. Mm-hmm. At least most people should.
Right.
And they managed to both do that. Mm-hmm. I think For the Love of Spock is a really important film for Trekkers and non-Trekkers alike. Even if you're not a Star Trek fan, whoever you are.
All 8 of you.
All 8 of you, yeah. All 8 of you Amish people, in which case, why are you listening to this show?
They're not. Anyway.
I think that this film has something in it for everybody. It looks at the nature of fame. It looks at the nature of family. It looks at the nature of friendship. And it looks at people. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, we're all just people. Mm-hmm. And that's what this film is about.
Mm-hmm. I think that there's a lot of interesting revelations about Leonard here. And I've been a fan of his for years. I loved him in Mission Impossible as Paris also, which he lasted 2 seasons because he got bored with playing the same running stuff all the time. And he's played, he was a director. Besides the Star Trek films, he directed 3 Men and a Baby and a number of other films.
He was an accomplished stage actor taking roles in
They had footage of him, footage of the sign from the Cape Cod Melody Tent in Hyannis doing Fiddler on the Roof, which was really funny.
In plays as varied as Equus, Fiddler on the Roof, Oliver, Sherlock Holmes, a little bit of everything.
I think that the one thing that I really wish Adam had done with this film, and it's just a little thing, I wish he'd been able to find some archival footage of interviews with Dee Kelly and James Doohan.
Yeah,
because they were not included because they've both passed on, and it's like
that would have been cool.
Dee's been gone for quite a while, and it would have been nice if we'd heard from them too, because Dee was also close friends with Leonard, and I believe Jimmy was too.
One thing that I want to bring up that I was like, wow, I didn't think we were going to go there in this movie.
They did actually talk about slash fic.
Yeah, that's not it though. That's not what I was going to bring up. Surprisingly enough, because I won't confirm or deny that I read slash fic on a regular basis. Was the whole fact that they brought up Star Trek the Animated Series, which for so long wasn't, I don't even know if it's still considered canon or not. I'm not sure.
It's half canon.
Half canon. But the fact that they wanted to do this show, but they didn't want to pay to bring back George Takei and Nichelle Nichols to voice their characters. And Leonard said, if they're not coming back, then I'm not coming back.
Right.
And that was one thing that just, I think, encapsulated Leonard as a person. Willing to go that extra mile for his friends and to get a good production at the end of the day. I think that says so much about him as a person.
I do too. What's your score?
I give For the Love of Spock an A. Very proud A.
I do too. I think Adam's made a wonderful tribute film to his father, and if you're a Leonard Nimoy fan, definitely check it out. For the Love of Spock is in limited release in theaters from Gravitas Features, and you can also get it in most on-demand services right now, and that will be available through the end of the year.
When it comes to everything movies, we've got it. Subject Cinema.
Plug Central.
This is the part of the show where we talk about us, and we have great stuff going on. I want to point out to you that if you are a listener to Subject Cinema or have friends that listen, or you want to get to listen to Subject Cinema, we have new outlets you can go to. Besides what we've always had, we've always been available on iTunes, on Stitcher. We've been available for over a couple years on TuneIn.com. In the last couple of months, we are available now on SoundCloud. We are available now on iHeartRadio. We are available now on our YouTube site. We are posting selected shows. Ones that don't get copyright buzzed, because I have little sound effects and stuff that they don't like. We definitely want you to listen to the show, and we hope that you'll choose one of these alternate methods, or continue to listen however you do, through iTunes or Stitcher or whatever, or through our website or through RSS. And we do urge you to subscribe to the show wherever you listen to it, so that we can know that there's subscriptions out there and that people are actually listening. Right now, I am aware, we get regular stats from our podcast service, and I know there's quite a few people out there that listen to the show, so I wish we would hear from you more. And more to the point, I'm a little disappointed that we have not yet received anybody coming in to help out with our Patreon campaign. That's partly my fault. I have not had the time to publicize it as much as I'd like to. We haven't had time to put a video up on Patreon. I am working on it. It will be up while I'm off this week for all the doctor stuff. But we are running a Patreon campaign. We are trying to raise some funds for some new equipment. We need a new production computer. We need a new mixing board. And we need another, we also would like to up our contributions to film festivals, up our coverage, maybe try to get enough in our goals to actually get to a few out-of-town festivals that are big, like Toronto, Sundance, Fort Lauderdale, a number of other places. And so we're asking for you to come over and donate. There's some great perks that you get for being a part of the Patreon campaign. Certain levels will get you Subject Cinema is made possible by Patreon friends like Casey Kasem used to do on 1840. Some of them will get you some other exclusives. And we have, this is going to help not just Subject Cinema, but all of the PNR Networks shows, including Cavebabble, all of our spin-offs, Front Row 5 and 10, 3 Minute Weekend, and Tuesday Digidex, plus Platinum Rose's Garden. And it helps spread the love to our other friends who do websites for us as well. People like Eric and Valerie Lyon over at Cavebabble, Anthony, who is one of our contributors, and so on and so forth. So please, go to patreon.com/PNRNetworks, and please come on board as a recurring monthly supporter. Starts at $2. Come on, $2. That's all we're asking a month from you. $2. Everybody does $2. We'll do pretty good. Okay?
I think so too, yeah.
We have all the great shows that this campaign is promoting. We have 3 Minute Weekend every Friday with all the latest film releases, and Tuesday Digidex every Tuesday, all the latest DVD and Blu-ray releases, as well as on-demand streaming. Front Row 5 and 10 is up every Wednesday, supposedly, from Kim and I with our Goofy List program, and of course Subject Cinema every Sunday evening. Platinum Rose's Garden every Saturday evening, where she talks about Supernatural, and Cavebabble with Eric and Valerie Lyon every weekend, usually on Sunday evenings, where they talk about all kinds of crazy stuff, mostly films, TV, games, and odd things to eat. And that's at Cavebabble.com. Platinum Rose's Garden, what are you doing this week?
This week on Platinum Rose's Garden, I am talking about the election, surprisingly enough. My views on politics. I'm sure you guys will be terribly interested in that. And I am looking at
Actually, you will. It's freaking hilarious. Anyway.
And I'm looking at this past week's episode of Supernatural American Nightmare. And I hope you guys will come and check that out over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com.
If you listen to Kim's show, subscribe, write to people, and to subscribe to Patreon so you can help her show continue to build up in numbers. Write and tell your Supernatural watching friends that she's out there. And maybe drop a line to other Supernatural websites and say, hey, have you checked this out? That would be great, too.
That would be great.
Because that was really fantastic. We have a lot of great stuff coming up in the next few weeks. We are approaching the end of the year.
Yep.
Dun, dun, dun! That means it's time for the Poppies and Rosies. We're looking at our 12th annual Poppies and Rosies coming up on New Year's Eve. And that's going to be great, because it's going to be a great way to do it. New Year's Eve is on a Saturday this year. We're going to be able to have all kinds of stuff, and people can actually listen while they party and get drunk and celebrate 2017 coming in.
We're not advocating anybody get drunk.
Getting safely drunk, staying where you're staying, don't drive, don't drink, to have a designated driver, have Uber, whatever you need to do.
Be old enough to drink,
and
for crying out loud.
Right, fine. But, listen to the PNR. Now, we're going to have, here we go. Our year-end schedule is going to look like this. Film listeners and our friends out there who are at the studios and our publicity stuff, if you want your film considered for this year's year-end awards, we have to be able to see it by December 15th. That means screeners, press showings, whatever. We have to get them all out of the way by December 15th, because we're not going to have time after that, so we probably won't get to see Silence. And we will make an exception on one or two films that come out to theaters before that last deadline. December 27th will bring our year-end lists of the top 10s, or top Baker's Dozen, Dynamite Dozen, what we do every year, with a little special. The week before the Poppies and Rosies, we'll be doing back to our regular scheduled stuff. Hopefully, the Just Because We Can awards with all the goofy stuff, and of course, on New Year's Eve, we'll be doing the Poppies and Rosies. Lots of great films out there. This year, we are both having meltdowns in the animated category. There has been so many good animated films. There are 2 more coming out before Christmas, and it's going to be like, oh my God, really? There's a lot to choose from. So, and of course, all the usual categories. I think there are categories, people in the categories that most people don't think, but we don't necessarily think Oscar campaigns, although we do stick with the Oscar year. So again, if you are wanting us to review and look at the films and consider it for our year-end awards to our publicity people and studios and such, we have to see it by December 15th, with 1 or 2 exceptions. So make sure that you get in touch with us by then to do so. We've got a lot of great other stuff going on, too. We have a new show coming in January called Real Rewind, and we have our first video show in the works.
Mm-hmm.
Probably coming, we'll probably shoot for a March premiere, and Kim will be the star of this video program, but we can't get it off the ground if we don't get our Patreon campaign working, and that, once again, it's extremely important. Patreon is going to help us do things that we've always wanted to do. We are really we want to make a firm, solid commitment to our listeners, our fans, our readers, and we are doing that and asking you to help us do that through Patreon. Patreon.com, PNRNetworks.com, Patreon.com/PNRNetworks. Please come over and become a part of our Patreon supporters. And that's going to do it for Plug Central this week.
This is the place to be. You're listening to Subject Cinema with TC Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Save our screens!
It has been, I think, over 2 years since we have had to do one of these.
Yeah.
Since the digital revolution changed everything. Save Our Screens is looking to you guys to help save 2 classic drive-in theaters at opposite ends of the country, and all of them are worth saving. These came to our attention thanks to the newsletter I subscribed to from our friend April Wright, the director of Going Attractions, the definitive history of the American drive-in. Deborah is currently...
Terrific movie.
Yeah, it is. April is currently working on a great new movie about movie palaces, which I can't wait to see. And right now, we got 2 of these that we're going to ask you to help out with. The first one is the Motorview Drive-In in Dallas, Oregon.
I didn't even know there was a Dallas,
I
Oregon.
didn't either. This is not to be confused with another city called the Dalles. It's not the same thing as far as I know. Dallas is a separate city. It doesn't say it. I'm out there. So this is a historic landmark. They want to register as a historic landmark. It has been there since 1953. The Motorview Drive-In is a major tourist attraction in Dallas, Oregon, and they're trying their best to keep it afloat. The reason they're having problems is because they do not own the land that the drive-in is on. The landowners are kind of urging them, close down so we can sell the land to developers, blah, blah, blah. And they don't want to do that. Of course, this is an institution. It's been there for over 60 years. What they're looking to do is asking for your donations to help them out. They are trying to purchase the land, which is at $1.2 million, pay the taxes, federal tax 39%, which seems awfully high.
It does.
And state tax 9%, associated with crowdfunding donations, is along with 8% to Indiegogo. If they go above and beyond the fundraising, they can utilize funds for upgrades to equipment, facilities, new trees between the theater and the adjacent homes to help block light and noise pollution. If they don't raise enough funds, they're not going to charge you, and the land will be used for something else. But if they get close enough, they're going to go ahead and try and secure a loan to make a difference. They need $2 million. They're currently at just under $5,000. The campaign just launched this last week. They have 2 months to do it. And if you go over and donate at Indiegogo.com, we'll have a link in the show notes. You can go over and donate to them and check out their YouTube video about everything. So it's important that we keep the historical places like this going. More and more drive-ins are coming back, and this is one of them. We should also point out that they have won a ton of awards from local businesses and local awards that proclaim it as one of the big attractions in Dallas, Oregon. And they were voted the number 7 best drive-in theater in the U.S. by USA Today. That is worth saving.
Yep.
So go over to our show notes and help save the Motor View Drive-In. We'll also have a link to it, I think, on Facebook and a number of other places. So please check it out and check them out. The other one that's up is on the other side of the country in Abington, Virginia. It is the Moonlight Drive-In. Kyle Blevins is the currently owner. He just bought the Moonlight Drive-In in 2000, just recently. The drive-in closed in 2013, and Kyle is trying to raise funds to help bring it back to life next year. The Moonlight Theater had been in this area for many, many decades. It opened, 1949. It is listed as a historical landmark both in Virginia and nationally. Funds raised by their GoFundMe campaign will go to restore the property, which is now in neglect, and to restore the area, and to buy a digital projector so they can reopen. This is a really good cause, and I mean, I get so pissed to see when things like this don't. No, they closed a few years ago, and drive-ins are a part of our heritage that we're losing. And we're losing theaters, period, to Netflix and home stuff. And we've got to keep some of this going.
Absolutely.
And the Moonlight is another one that should be kept opening. They are currently running the campaign. It's going to run probably for the next month or two. $912 donated already. Their goal is $100,000. And they hopefully will make it. We'll have a link to the Moonlight Theater's campaign in show notes as well. So the Motor View in Dallas, Oregon, and the Moonlight Theater in Abington, Vermont. It's time for you to pony up and help save our screens, save these two drive-in theaters, bring back one from extinction, and help save the other from extinction. Put your money where your mouth is. Donate. Even $1 helps on these. Make sure. And don't forget, even if you can't donate, go to these websites and spread their campaign. Tweet about it, Facebook it, make sure everybody knows they need our help to go forward. Okay?
Enough said.
Thank you, Stan.
Good times and great movies. Subject Cinema.
The Last Reel.
Okay, here at the Last Reel section of Subject Cinema, we try and talk about something good, something light, something happy.
Something that happens when hell freezes over.
Well, there's that. You could put it that way. Something that I never, ever, 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 ever thought I would be able to say in my lifetime. The Chicago Cubs are world champions. Man, that sounds weird.
The Chicago Cubs beat the Cleveland Indians this past week in Game 7. They almost blew it, too, of the World Series on Fox. It was the highest-rated World Series. 13 innings, 7. And a 45-minute rain delay.
Yeah.
Game 7.
You couldn't have written this better for a movie.
It was the highest-rated World Series game since 1993. That's 23 years. Mm-hmm. And Bill Murray is everywhere with the team, taking them on Saturday Night Live and going around on the parades. The Cubs are now officially have broken that, which ironically, now the team that has gone the longest without winning a World Series is now the Cleveland Indians.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, the whole time that the Cubs-Indians World Series was going on, in this house, we don't watch a lot of baseball. Neither of us are enormous baseball fans.
But we were rooting for the Cubs for two reasons. Number one, the Cubs are such underdogs, and they have been so maligned over the years that they hadn't even made the World Series in years, and the fact that they got this far was cool. But we also were rooting for the Cubs because the Indians knocked the Boston Red Sox, out of the playoffs. So... Yep.
Yes.
I'm torn because I was born in Washington, but I spent most of my life in Ohio. But I never did like the Cleveland Indians. I was always a Cincinnati Reds fan. So we chose to support the Cubs, and we got paid off for it. And they almost blew. I mean, they were ahead 6-3 and almost blew that lead in the last game. And it was like, wow.
So there's
Crazy
nothing like victory tinged with the sweet taste of spite. Yay, spite! You know, I mean, I have to be honest. It was truly bizarre sitting there watching this and going, "Let's go, Cubbies!" You know, I mean, it was like eating a really strange food. It was
Although
just
we didn't
rolling
really
it around
watch
in
the
my.
whole thing. We just watched bits and pieces of it, the whole series.
It was
But
like rolling it around in your mouth, going, "This just doesn't taste right."
Congratulations to the Chicago
congratulations!
Cubs.
You guys really earned it. You hit it out of the park. Good job.
Time to mosey on out of here. Thank you for being with us. We hope you enjoyed our reviews, and we urge you to check out Doctor Strange and For the Love of Spock. Doctor Strange in theaters everywhere, as if you can't find that out.
Mm-hmm.
And For the Love of Spock in limited release, but also available on-demand streaming. Check your favorite service, and you can get it there for a pretty decent price.
Yep.
And you can also buy it for to keep if you like it.
Mm-hmm.
Next week we'll have more great films, as we always do. This is award season. Films are hitting theaters like crazy, and we will bring you as many reviews as we can over the next few weeks as we jump headlong into heading toward our own end of the year awards, the Poppies and Rosies, coming up in December. Until next week.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits. Whenever my life gets me so down, I know I can go down to where the music and the fun never ends. As long as the music keeps playing, you know what I'm saying. I know that I can find a friend. At the roundhouse.
For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be buttered.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
The Cubs have won the World Series. Who thought hell would freeze over right now?
Do you realize how many goats probably got sacrificed by the end of Game 7?
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole or an 11-foot sweep.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2016 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies.
That's all.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.